why do you ask? Why would you not want to have an ultrasound? It seems like they would not be of a problem, right? But an ultrasound are sound waves that go through your body and then bounce off structures. So essentially, the image that you're getting of your little bean is a picture of sound waves bouncing off of their little body. Now, to us, we can't actually hear it at all. But because our little beans inside of us are used to just a muffled, low-grade sound of our daily voices, in fact, they don't even really hear anything at that point, but they feel. You can feel vibration. Think of an earthquake happening in the core of the earth and working its way up, and we feel it. So the same thing for our little beans. They feel the vibration of the sound waves. Again, to us, that doesn't sound like or feel like very much, but to them, they can pick up everything. So it's sort of like now standing next to a railroad track for them, and that sound of that train and that train whistle going off so loudly. And it's very actually loud and kind of scary because, again, it's like a train waking you up in the middle of your sleep. You know, if you can imagine just being in a muffled womb for, weeks, and that being all you're used to. So it's not helpful, and it also creates heat in the body and heat on the fetus. And the fetus doesn't need that extra heat. It can cause damage actually to the cells. So we want to be careful. And if you've had multiple ultrasounds, don't feel bad. There's no reason to feel bad at this point at all. And babies have been having ultrasounds for years, and generally speaking, they turn out just fine. However, we just wanted to take the most precautions possible and create the softest environment possible during growth. So we did not get the ultrasound. And because of that, again, I didn't know that we didn't even have a baby growing, as far as I can tell. If you remember, I think I told you that there was a possibility that we had the blighted ovum, which again, it happens if in the very, very beginning there's something wrong genetically or in the creation of that embryo where it doesn't really even develop at all, but the body still supports the pregnancy. So again, we could have found out way early that we actually were not going to have a baby before we shared that glorious information and joyful information with everybody, and had to walk through that. But again, if you saw the previous video, I know there was a reason for it, and so I'm glad that I get to share that with you. Now, if we had gotten that ultrasound at the beginning and we had noticed that indeed there was not an embryo or a fetus growing at any given point, and we had been going to a OBGYN at the time, then it probably would have been suggested to us to have a D and C. And that process is one where they go in and they basically scrape your uterus for you so that you can expel the contents. And it is important to expel the contents of your uterus when you've had a miscarriage, so that you can continue to heal properly and the uterus can continue to work properly. However, it's really not necessary usually to have a D&C because, again, the body is equipped with the ability to be able to take care of that process itself. Now, there are times when we want to maybe check with an ultrasound to make sure that everything has come out. If you don't feel like you've had a complete miscarriage, then you can get an ultrasound and find that out, especially if it makes you feel more comfortable. In the end, you always have to feel comfortable about what's going on, and if you don't feel comfortable, if there's any inkling of something that doesn't seem right, I do encourage you to check into it and do what makes you feel good, because in the end, your peace of mind is going to bring you much more, and so that's very important. But oftentimes the D&C is not necessary, and they'll tell you that maybe it's necessary, or maybe taking a medication to help create a false miscarriage, a false contractions and false expelling, meaning like it's a medically induced miscarriage, so that you can expel the contents. Sometimes they say that that's necessary. And I honestly am not exactly sure the long-term effects of that. I do know that the DNC can be damaging to the uterus. It can thin out the walls. So it's not really something that you want to do unless it's absolutely necessary, because we, of course, want to make sure that our uteruses are as healthy as possible for the next go-around. So we've got the DNC, we've got the medically induced miscarriage, and we've got a natural miscarriage, which, as I explained before, is what I went through very easily. But mine was right at 12 weeks. If we had found out at 5 weeks, let's say, through an ultrasound that I didn't have that fetus, then a doctor may say, well, okay, that's fine. If you choose that you want to have a natural miscarriage, like just at home and let that happen, we'll give you a couple weeks, and if it doesn't work, then we'll go ahead and do a DNC, or we'll give you medication. Well, let's say that it happened. Well, that would have taken me another 6 weeks or so before I had had a miscarriage. And when I think back on that, and I think, my gosh, how grueling that would have been. It would have been so difficult to know that, and to yet not be expelling anything, and to just know that there's this fetus and all of these contents inside my uterus that need to come out. Instead, I'm so thankful that I did not have to go through that. Instead, again, because we didn't know, I was just able to allow my body to go through its process as long as that took. And suddenly at 12 weeks, we did recognize that we were having that miscarriage, and my body took care of it naturally. And I do feel like it was a full miscarriage. You know, if there's any issue in the future, if I notice anything weird, or if my periods aren't normal or something of that nature, then, you know, I could have that checked again through an ultrasound. But at this point, I feel pretty confident. So I just want to encourage you, one, ultrasound or no ultrasound, why not? If you are going to have a miscarriage or have had a miscarriage and you need to expel the contents, what your options are, and why or why not. And I do encourage you to allow your body to do what it was created to do. Because again, ADIO, above, down, inside out, we were created to do these things. And if we give our body what it needs to do it, it will. And I'm so thankful for that. I hope this has been helpful to you. I'm glad to answer any questions. I'm glad to connect with you in any way. And I hope that this was encouraging to you. Again, I just want to say to all moms and moms-to-be out there that whatever decisions you've already made, if your heart is solid with those, fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing. Certainly don't feel bad about anything that you've already done that's in the past, and all you have is the future. And again, if you feel great about your plans, stick with them. Do know that there are tons of options out there, so if you're interested in learning more about other options, there is information that we can send to you, and I'm glad to connect. Again, this is Cairo Mom to Be. Thank you very much, and be blessed, and know that you're loved. Bye.